All right, y'all, we are officially in the Venus sequence and we're on the path from drama to dharma. So, as the book says, wherever the drama is greatest for you, whether it's your husband, wife, parent, child, enemy, or friend, there is the place of the greatest potential and magic. So today we're talking about the lines of our attraction sphere. I'm Molly, you're watching Mirror Readings, and again, the lines in our gene keys is how we move from the shadow to the gift frequency. So here we go, we're moving along the path of dharma from the purpose of our relationships to our attraction sphere, and that's going to dictate what we're attracted to and what's attracted to us. The Venus sequence is all about opening up our hearts, no matter what close relationship we're talking about, and it applies to any close relationship. Our hearts are going to get cracked open one way or the other. So we may as well get into it and learn as much as we can, right? Line 1, here we go. Sterility and fertility. Those are hard words to say together. Sterility and fertility, that's emptiness or wholesomeness. So line 1 has to do with whether the attractor sphere is open or closed. Sterility, that's a hard word. Sterility in this sense means devoid of meaning. It means emptiness in terms of communication and connectivity. So there's always a fertile response to any situation. On the other hand, the shadow consciousness, a response is depletive. So are you giving your partner, friend, whoever it is, a response that gives them something to work with? Or does it shut down the attractor field and block connection? So the difference between a sterile and a fertile relationship is always your attitude. Every relationship has the potential to be a wonderful adventure, but you have to open your heart up to life. So eventually we get bored of having an attractor field that's closed. Giving out empty responses, increasing sterility in our love life eventually gets boring. So it might be boredom of being devoid of connection that moves you from the shadow to the gift frequency in your attractor sphere, but hopefully it's something that you can just bear witness to. Remember that fertility, meaning wholeness, is more fun. Open up your heart, open up your attractor sphere, and let people in. Okay, second lines. This is about lust that's inadequate or passion that's liberated. So lust is what happens when our evolutionary imperative to procreate or make connections with other people gets mixed up with our desire to escape suffering, right? This can result in very disappointing relationships where you project all over somebody and they're not able to match your projections because you were never really seeing them. You were just seeing your own projections. Or hopefully, if you get in touch with your vulnerability, which is the key from moving to the shadow state to the gift in this attraction sphere, you'll be able to open up your heart, again, the whole point of the Venus sequence, and access these higher levels of frequency. Once your fear of inadequacy or that recognition of your desire to escape suffering, which we all have, is recognized, then you can use that yearning to turn into an expression of love. But you have to feel the fear of inadequacy, the fear of experiencing suffering to be able to get into your vulnerability and turn that lust into passion. Line 3. If you've watched any of my other videos on the lines, you know that line 3s need a lot of diversity. So it's no surprise that they are promiscuity and playfulness, which is either melodramatic or adventurous. We want to be adventurous, not dramatic. Third lines can have some wounding. A lot of times they have an early sexual experience that causes them to freeze at that young age when they experienced it, and it can cause them to be very open-hearted and seductive and then run away when it comes to commitment or it comes time to be vulnerable. And in order to transmute this shadow state, if you have it, you really need to have a sense of humor about yourself. So to access the gift frequency of your attraction sphere, you need to have a tender heart towards your own tendency to create drama in relationships. And whenever we're to blame another for our own hurt, we're making ourselves the victim. So it doesn't really matter whose fault it is in causing the melodrama. It's on us to open up our heart and see ourselves as whole beings who at least had some part in whatever happened. Once we've mastered this art, which is the art made possible at the gift frequency, right? Which is adventurousness and playfulness in relationships, we can move to the final goal of keeping our heart open at all times. Yeah, buddy, you got this, line 3. All right, 4th lines. You guys are either emotionally distant and frigid, or you're deeply intimate and romantic. So emotional distance can happen in any relationship for any number of reasons. Sometimes when kids are born and they kind of end up dominating the dynamic and the relationship can become monotonous, stressful, whatever, that can create emotional distance. But nothing creates more distance than a shadow pattern that's untransformed in either partner. So the 4th line shadow can also manifest through tone. So watch how you're talking to your partner or to whoever you love if you have this 4th line in your attractor sphere, because a lot of times 4th lines can take on a very cold and judgmental tone without realizing it. So literally just warming up your voice and making an effort to communicate more sweetly is going to bring you into that gift frequency. So the 4th line keynote of the gift is romance, and it needs to find gentle, creative ways to express itself. So again, start with your voice. Start with how you're communicating with your partner or whoever you're in connection with, and that'll immediately take you into the gift frequency. All right, 5th line, here we go. So we can be either, and I say we because I have a 5th line in my attraction node, we can be manipulative entrappers or masters of sensuality. And the real ish with being a 5th line in this attraction sphere is that we end up consciously or unconsciously ensnaring another in our fearful mental projections about them. So like we're afraid of being vulnerable, so we project our fears onto another person that holds them in the bondage of a negative opinion, and then we can never really be in the connection because we're totally like all we can see is our own projection onto this person. So yada, yada, yada. These are people who may seem more comfortable with their sexuality, but are actually weaving a web of self-delusion that projects great self-confidence while really feeling very insecure. I know, Richard Rudd, stop yelling at me, okay? We have to acknowledge how delicate our inner world really is to be able to access that gift frequency of masterful sensuality. Because ultimately, if we can access this, we become very naturally seductive in a way that's like strategic, and we can turn off and on to get what we want. I love that for us. And we can actually see another person because we're not just projecting our fears onto them. So 5th lines, as always, very, very powerful, but we have to become aware of how much impact we're having on others in order to use that impact responsibly. And finally, line 6, that is resigned disappointment or ecstatic innocence. Okay, so 6 lines get disappointed at such a deep level that they can give up on life and love altogether. So they can just resign themselves to the idea that whatever their dreams are in a relationship or in any expression of their life, that they're just completely unrealistic and they should just forget about it. So in order to get out of that shadow and access the gift of this gene key, they need to engage with that disappointment and like really feel it. Because otherwise they're just going to like blame whoever is in front of them for their own disappointment. The moment you can use your discomfort for the purpose of inner transformation, that's the moment you're going to transcend that disappointment. To be ecstatic means to be as a child. It requires deep self-forgiveness, and also like a self-forgiveness that's so profound that you just forget you ever felt that disappointment. And to be ecstatic means more than this. It also means that we're living in the vision inside of our hearts. So once again, the whole purpose of the Venus stream is to open up our hearts. And then we no longer blame those around us for our feelings of non-love, but use it as a means of sculpting more ecstasy from the living clay of our relationships. Doesn't that sound better? And Richard Rudd would like to remind you all that even if we're not talking about a sexual relationship, the attraction sphere is still dealing with penetration at the quantum level, because we are penetrating each other's auras when we come into contact. We're penetrating each other's souls. And he reminds us that sexuality, whatever form it takes, any form of soul penetration, is one of the most charged subjects of all. So be gentle with yourself. And when you're contemplating your Venus sequence, particularly the attraction node, think about the common thread in all of your relationships when you look at what key you have in this node. Feel into the shadow, the gift, the city. Where has it shown up previously in your close relationships? Something to think about as you dive into the mystery of your own hero's journey. I'm Molly, you're watching Mirror Readings. Thank you so much for being here with me. And if you'd like to book a Gene Keys reading with me, come through to my website, mirrorreadings.com. And all subscribers to this channel save 15%. If you have any questions, email me, mirrorreadings@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.